Good morning. I appreciate everyone being here. UAB heads to #1 Georgia this Saturday. Kickoff at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. So I'll turn it over to Coach Dilfer for an opening statement.
Thanks, you guys. Obviously coming off another very disappointing performance. Focus is on getting better. As Blazers, we got to get better at football. We got to get better at coaching. We got to better running this building. And then the challenge only gets greater, playing not a good, a great Georgia team at their place, primetime game. A lot of challenges there. So trying to build this thing on embracing the challenges and doing hard things, and got what I asked for. Can't get any harder than this. They've allowed 24 points this year. We allowed 24 points in the first half of one game. So we got our work cut out for us.
What I mean, this is probably a long answer, but when you look at Georgia, just sort of what jumps out about what makes them so good, and the second part of that is, how do you take a confident team in there? I mean, how do you make sure your players are confident going in and not,
Well, I think that's two different things. Number one, Steve, and that's what I've been doing all morning, is studying them. I think three things jump out. Number one, they have great culture, great energy. They play together. It is team football. Second would be they have very good people doing it, right? They've recruited at a very high level. They've developed players that they've recruited, so they're better now than they were when they got them. And then the third thing that is my NFL eye is they are NFL coached. They are incredibly well coached. From their eye discipline to their hands, to their communication. They shed blocks, they sustain blocks. Like that is football at its highest levels. Can you shed blocks and can you sustain blocks when you're on offense? Their schemes, fit in the coaching realm. They're very complex defensively. Offensively, they're multiple. So you can't guess, right? You can't get in a guessing game with them. So it very much looks like I can go back when I retired in 2008. This is 2006, 2007, 2008, as a backup quarterback studying defense from a coach's eye. It looks very similar. It looks very, very much like getting ready for the Baltimore Ravens or getting ready for the Rams or Chargers or whoever you're playing that week. You have really good players that are really well coached, that know what they're doing, that know what you're doing, and then they can adjust and they finish. That would be the other thing I'd say about really good players. People talk so much about height, weight, speed, measurables, all that. All that is true. But a great player finishes, and they have finishers. So when their defensive linemen get through and have a tackle in the backfield, they make the tackle. When their secondary player triggers on a blocker, needs to shed them and stay outside leverage, he does, and he tackles the ball carrier. When their corner needs to reroute and stay on the backside hip and man coverage and play the ball, he does, and it gets picked. When the ball's in the air and needs to be intercepted, it gets intercepted. Like, they have finishers, and that's what I'm accustomed to. And that's what we got to get better at, is developing our really good players. We have really good players, but they got to develop and they got to learn how to finish.
And Trent, you played in a lot of big-time atmospheres like Athens. How do you?
I've never played anything like this. I've been to one SEC game. My daughter's being recruited at University of Alabama, and we went to the Ole Miss Alabama game. And to this day, I think the Kentucky Derby is the coolest thing I've ever been able to go to, live sports. I think it's better than Super Bowls. An SEC football game at night is way better atmosphere than a Super Bowl. I think it's the second coolest thing I've ever been to as a spectator. So I'm personally really excited about going to an SEC game at night. It's different. I mean, their slogan is just means more. It's different. It's true.
And just talk about the great opportunity for your program on national television, too, on ESPN2.
Well, it's a great opportunity if we play well, if we have great energy, if we support each other, if we keep our composure, if we can handle hard things that are going to happen. Bad things will happen to the Blazers in this game. I can promise you that, right? How do we respond? Like, I think you got to know that going in, and you got to respond. What bad things don't mean losses, right? It's how you respond to those things. And it's a great opportunity for us and that's the message. This is a great opportunity if we can go out there and be the best versions of ourselves. And that's what this week's about. Like, this week is about getting better at football. It's getting better as a head coach. It's getting better as a wide receivers coach. It's getting better at every single level. We got to be better at recruiting. We got to be better at operations. We got to be better at every single thing in this building. And if we can do that, then it's a good opportunity to show off our best self.
I've watched the last 2 Georgia games, and what are you telling your guys? I know it's Georgia, and it's the number 1 next to it, but last week they were in a tight one. The week before, I believe it was 0-0 going into the second quarter against a team that they should beat easily. Is that what you're seeing on tape?
Well, I haven't talked to the team yet about Georgia, so we talked about us yesterday. Yesterday was a work day. We talked about us. I don't think we even brought up the name Georgia Bulldogs because we have enough issues on our own. So we addressed our challenges. We're very honest with where we're at and where we need to be by the end of the week. It's the coolest thing about football is you can change dramatically in a week. I don't know if that's true in the NBA. I don't know if that's true in Major League Baseball, but in football, you can make dramatic changes in 1 week of work. When I get to the team tomorrow, when I talk to them tomorrow, I think the focus will be on us. Now, what I will show them is that they make mistakes like us too, right? I bet you Kirby is talking to his team about the mistakes they've made and trying to clean up their mistakes. Now, their mistakes aren't quite as catastrophic as ours. And I think that goes back to the finishing. They play better team football than we do. When they have somebody make a mistake, they have another player or players that are shedding blocks, running to the football, filling a gap, making a play, and turning what should be a 12-yard gain into a 6-yard gain. Offensively, when the quarterback doesn't play perfectly, a guy makes a play for him. When the offensive lineman breaks down, they have another guy make a play for him. So I think I'm going to use Georgia with our team as an example of what really good team football looks like. For our coaches, I want them to watch the film look at the technique that Georgia's teaching and watch it come out in the football game, because it does. We teach the same stuff. We teach the exact same stuff. It's not necessarily coming out in the game. So what's the disconnect there? Our players can do it. Our inside linebackers can go out and punch and extend their arms and drive their feet and keep their head to the other side and shed and make a play. Georgia's does it. Why aren't ours consistently? I think that's going to be the message. I think you use Georgia this week as an example of what really good football looks like, and then the challenge of can we do the same thing?
It's been less than 48 hours since the second loss. Just what's been the response and attitude from the coaches and the players? Reevaluating yourselves. You said yesterday you looked at yourselves more than you even mentioned Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I think number one, there's just a transparency and honesty. A matter of factness is the term I'm using a lot. This is who we are now. You are what your record is. I think Parcells said it years ago, and it's one of the most true statements in football is you are what your record says you are. You are what your stats say you are. Right now, we're not a very good football team, and that's okay. They're not bad people. They heard that message. I wasn't mad at anybody. In fact, I don't think my blood pressure got higher than 85 yesterday. Like, I was cool. We were nice. But we're matter of fact. There's many people in the building, and it starts with me, that are not meeting the standard. And we have to meet the standard. The standard is chasing your best every single day. People ask me that, what's the standard? Well, there's that what? The standard is the standard. I don't know what the hell that means. Our standard is that you show up here every single day and you chase your best. And I don't think that's happened. And I'll be the first to say I think I slipped. I called one of my mentors yesterday, and I asked him very honestly, I said, hey, here's been the roadmap. Here's how we've done it. You've taught me a lot what I know. And he stopped me mid-tracks, and he just said, you've lost your edge. He goes, you haven't been as edgy as you've been in the past as a player, as a coach, as a owner of businesses, of running the Elite 11, and you need to get that edge back. So that was a kick in the groin, but it was true. As I evaluated myself, it was very true that I had softened my edge. I wouldn't say I'd loosened it, but I'd sharpened. I had softened it. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say. It wasn't sharp, and that edge is this morning very sharp.
Could you share who your mentor is?
Jeff Tedford. He's one of many, but Jeff was the one that I called on this one.
Coach, you said post-game the other night you made a note to evaluate everything.
Mm-hmm.
From your evaluation yesterday, Sunday, what changes can we expect this week, rather it be personnel or scheme, or what do you got to
We've reformatted. I don't want to, some of this is in-house stuff. I don't want to be one of those guys that doesn't tell the media what they need to know, so I will tell you enough. We've reformatted some things on how the coaching process happens. Nobody's been fired, relegated, none of that, just reorganizing process. We've done some big scheme evaluations on both sides of the ball, really all three phases. We will have some personnel changes. I'm not going to announce what those are. And then we're going to change how we practice a little bit. I really liked how we practice. In fact, the feedback on how we have practiced has been phenomenal from people that have come in. We vet it very hard. We wrestle hard with how we practice. It's one of the things I think I've always been able to do really well is take different ways of doing things and combine them together. But obviously it's not our way, right? It's obviously not the right way for this group. So we're going to change some things starting tomorrow. They're not going to be dramatic changes. I'm not going to go scrimmage on a Tuesday. I think that's Neanderthalish, if that's even a term. But there will be some very tactical changes to how we practice to hopefully allow them to take from how they're practicing onto the game field.
With Michael Moore last week starting on the edge and moving inside some, or played some inside.
Mm-hmm.
First off, how did he play when he moved inside? And second is, how difficult is that to move, during the season? I mean, you don't have the spring to work on it, type thing. How difficult is that for a player?
Michael Moore's a really good football player. He's one that we want to build around, and he's versatile. I think I've said this in the past. I really believe in versatile football players. I believe in scheme versatility and versatile football players, and he's one of our more versatile players. He played well in both. Somebody asked me for a bright spot. I think it was you that asked me for a bright spot after the game, or somebody else asked me at the time. I couldn't see one. Watching him play, he was a bright spot. All the way down to like the last snaps of the game that people would call meaningless. He was playing as hard as anybody. The onside kicks, you look at those onside kicks, and the second one especially. I mean, he knows there's two guys that want to take him on, and he becomes the hammer, not the nail. And that's a game that I would agree that those are meaningless snaps to most, but they weren't meaningless to him, and that speaks a lot about who he is. So he is going to be not a great football player. He needs to keep getting better like the rest of us, but he's really going to be a good one.
We talked about Kirby a little bit. Do you have a relationship with him at all? Have you met him before?
Yeah, we've talked a few times. I wouldn't call us friends. I just have not been around him that much. He was great with me in the hiring of Eddie Gordon, so I have a ton of respect for him. I don't know him as a human being. I have a ton of respect for how he runs his program, his culture. The thing Nick and Kirby don't get enough credit for, and now that I'm living it, I always knew how challenging it was, but I'm living it now, is it is really hard with this age group and the size of these buildings and the size of these staffs to get people going the right direction. I've always said, I don't care if it's left, right, straight, or back. If they're all going the same direction, you can win. And what normally happens in big buildings is you have some going this way, some going that way, some going this way, and that's losing in a building. They somehow have a way of getting everybody going the same direction all the time, and that speaks volumes to their leadership, how they think about culture, and then they're dealing with very successful young athletes, and to motivate them and inspire them every single day to play as hard as they play. I think is really impressive. You know, that's the one thing, going back to the original question. One of the three things that jumped out, and I would put into coaching, is how hard they play. Like, you take a play when they're beating Ball State 41-3, whatever it is, and you're watching number 32 chase down an outside zone, misdirection, put his foot in the ground, sprint 30 more yards, the play breaks out, he sprints another 15. Now, he's played 45, 50 plays in this game, and the game's out of reach. He's playing at his maximum level to the whistle, and you see that constantly as you watch them play, as their players play with a great deal of effort. So it speaks volumes how Kirby runs his program.
Any other questions? All right, Coach.
I mean, that was gentle. I'm used to it
Hey,
being MF, though.
I'm going to send John down here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Coach.